Hello, welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. This is your fellow Nigerian. And as you all know, the great man of Cuba has just passed away, Mr. Fidel Castro. And there are a lot of comments there, talking about how great this man was. You see, only the few Americans who has been brainwashed by their government and that are still calling this man a bad dictator or a dictator. This man was a unique individual, a man who wanted his people to be free. So actually, according to his biography, and I was very fortunate to bump into a video about his biography. I'm talking about his authentic biography. I'm not talking about those videos, documentary about him that has been made by those working for the American government or by those Cubans in Miami who were part of the corrupt system before Fidel Castro actually came into power. Majority of which are, the immigrant from Spain. These are the white people. Okay. So when you look at the people that actually left Cuba because of the fear of Fidel Castro, they were the Spanish immigrants that were running that country before the revolution. You barely see, along with them, black people, the Cubans, blacks, or the indigenous, population. I'm talking about the Indians, So when you see blacks in the U.S., those came because of the economic hardship in Cuba. But it's not because they hate Fidel Castro or Fidel Castro is after their life because they wanted to overthrow Fidel Castro. No. So these Spanish immigrants, okay, they all left the country and ran to Miami. They were all encouraged by the American government. American government trade there in Florida or in Miami, if you will, and they begin to time and time and again try to invade Cuba to overthrow Fidel Castro and his government. So I'm not talking about those narrative from those people, okay, because they has been brainwashed by the American government. Is the same thing happened in Iraq, where some Iraqis who left there, they scared that, there's a dictator in our country now. And they were armed against Saddam Hussein. The American government came in there and they took the man down. I'm not talking about those type of people. The same thing happened in Libya, where some of them ran away and said, we have a dictator in our country now. And they ran to the U.S. American government trained them. And before they actually started leaving their countries, for the fear of the man in power there, whether in Iraq or in Libya, these people has been approached by the American government in order for the American government to cause chaos in these countries, Iraq, Libya, now in Syria. So we see the same thing repeating again over again. You see, it all started, in Cuba and many of those South American countries. That is why when Fidel Castro came into power, he spread that revolution throughout the land of South America. So I was fortunate enough to bump into a video, an authentic video concerning this great man, Fidel Castro. This man was mesmerized right from the beginning. He studied law and he joined the movement there, or he formed a movement there against the corrupt system that were led by those Spanish immigrants, because it's just like South Africa. They came in there, the Westerners, and dominate everybody. That's what happened in Cuba. The ruling class were the Spanish immigrants. Whenever they arrive into third world countries, they want to, dominate and have access to everything there. The lands there, were in the hands of these people Later, of course, the Americans came in there and began to grab lands, arable lands. And when you look at this, it sounds familiar. It sounds familiar to what you have in Zimbabwe, where the man there is a labor, an evil man, is a bad man, is an oppressor, just because Robert Mugabe has redistributed the land there to the indigenous Zimbabweans. So that is exactly what Mr. Castro has done in Cuba. He wanted to make sure justice is done by redistributing the land to his people. So you know what they call Mr. Mugabe, a dictator. This is what American government is doing to any man who is fighting for justice. So I was very fortunate to bump into that video, and you can check out the video by yourself. Fidel Castro, the Untold Story documentary. I will post the link down here on the video so that you can see by yourself how a man was mesmerized by ideology. As a matter of fact, unlike what the Americans are telling you, this man, like I said, he graduated, from law school. Later he joined this movement right from secondary school, actually. So I would like to actually talk about this great man versus what we have in Nigeria, because this profile was set up to be dealing with the Nigerian issues. Okay, this man is not too far from Muammar Gaddafi. What I see as a similarity between the two men is that they were very passionate about their countries. They were very passionate about their people and, of course, the continent that they belong. Muammar Gaddafi was a pro-Africanist, a man who has that great vision. He wanted to even try to, initiate African currency, African Central Bank. He has that great vision, but because, Africa is somehow divided, because he's an Arab man for the Northern Africa, and probably what he was saying was not resonating in the minds of the rest of other African nations, especially when you go to the West, like Nigeria. You see, whenever you mention leaders in the world or in Africa that has fought for their people, there is no one coming from Nigeria. Nigeria never had such a great man. You see, Nigerian leaders cannot lead. When someone want to lead, they want to bring him down. Nigeria and Gabon, when they had that temporary seat in the United Nations, they actually voted for the invasion of Libya, even though they have the power to have voted no, that could have prevented the United Nations to approve the invasion of that country. But Robert Mugabe of Zimbabwe was one of the few Africans who stood up and said no to the invasion of Libya. If it was in the power of Robert Mugabe, the invasion of Libya would have been prevented. So what Muammar Gaddafi was saying concerning his program, his vision for Africans, was not resonating with the Nigerian leaders, because they don't know what it is, because they never produced an exceptional leader in Africa. So they don't know what it is to struggle for their people, or what the Nigerian leaders are all about. Even the Nigerian citizens is just about themselves, me and myself and I. If I have big house, if I have car, I'm okay. They say, well, they wouldn't see this man, Fidel Castro, as a great man, because in Nigeria, mediocrities are rewarded. Value is drowning now in Nigeria. You barely can see citizens right now in Nigeria who still know the importance of value. So this is all I want to be dealing with right now, because I mourn this man, great man Fidel Castro, a man who has helped his fellow citizens, of course the South American citizens in their various countries to have, a considerable independence from the Western countries, especially from Spain. And he extended that to Africa. This man actually helped Nelson Mandela out of prison. He has helped the South Africans, to fight, the evil of apartheid with the little resources that they have in Cuba. Cuba is one of the most tiniest countries in the world. But for you to understand what a great leader can accomplish, okay, this is a small country. The role Fidel Castro has played in the liberation of the Africans, I'm talking about the South Africans that were under the rule of apartheid. That role is the role the Nigerian government ought to have played. But you never actually have a great leader coming from Nigeria, a great revolutionist like Fidel Castro, since the history of that piece of geography, Nigeria. The only man they would have had there was Ojukwu when they actually wanted to break off from Nigeria. That man was a great intellectual. I'm not an Igbo tribe, but the truth must be told. I have seen videos from Ojukwu. The man was educated in the US. The man that actually was the leader there, in the Biafra liberation that failed many years back. So the man was an intellectual, very brilliant individual. That if that movement has succeeded, Mr. Ojukwu's name would have been placed just below, that of Fidel Castro as in the pecking order. But that is all man can see in Nigeria right now. What Fidel Castro has done for the Africans in various countries in Africa, when you see this video, you are going to actually miss this man. If you are a man or an individual that appreciate great men, that appreciate, men with intellect, you are going to miss this great man, Fidel Castro. I was almost shedding tears when I watched this video concerning him. How he graduated from university, lawyer, and he didn't settle for that. I say, okay, I have an occupation right now. That's all. Like what you have in Nigeria today, where people graduated from university, they have their own jobs or positions in companies. They are contented. Only a fool is contented with a little thing. But a great man is not satisfied when he knows quite well that there is something big out there. I'm not talking about those ambitions to be rich and make money through illegal way. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about those, that kind of ambition to be rich or have big cars that you have in Nigeria, big houses. But in reality, you're actually building those things on sand because the country is not, in good shape. The country is draining deep, into the bottom. I'm not talking about those kind of aspirations. I am talking about aspiration to make your people great people and, of course, your country. That is what Fidel Castro has done. So I want to say something here. Because when you say, I'm proud to be a Nigerian, and when you look at your institutions, like I always say, it's not the best in Africa, which I say I am going to deal with. The characteristic of a fair people and, of course, a fair country, where you see that Nigeria today is not leading anywhere. The role the Nigerian leader, whoever that was the leader of Nigeria during apartheid in South Africa, the role the Nigerian leader ought to have played, it is what Fidel Castro has taken on and played that role very successfully. Of course, a lot of Nigerians claim that they actually help the South Africans during that struggles against the apartheid government. I don't know how. Of course, a lot of Nigerians, sang songs, free South Africans, whatever. Whether the Nigerian government actually put money there, I don't know. But I am talking about where Cuba, one of the most tiniest countries in the world, where it actually played a dominant role in the liberation of Nelson Mandela and, of course, other Africans. That Nelson Mandela, when he was exonerated after 20-something years, he has to run down to Cuba and to see face to face with the great man, Fidel Castro, and to appreciate him, to say thank you. So if the Nigerian government's role actually was, helpful, which I don't know any, I think Nelson Mandela would have visited Nigeria. I think Nelson Mandela would have talked about that, even in his biography. But there's nothing like that. I talk about how today, how you cannot see a single Nigerian leader that can speak to the African Assembly in such an intellectual and, of course, in such a philosophical trajectory that will resonate with the Africans as to what they need to do and which direction they need to go in order to be great people. No disrespect. I listened to the vice president they have there today in Nigeria. I'm talking about Mr. Osinbajo. The man is very brilliant. But I also read a very brilliant article written by a Nigerian, a doctor who's living in UK, where he actually lamented and, of course, he expressed his disappointment in the Nigerian government, the policies and everything that has not yielded any result. He brilliantly talked about how the vice president is naively telling the Nigerians to start praying for Nigeria, as if prayer will change the value of the Nigerian currency, as if prayer will fight the corruption today that you have in Nigeria, as if prayer, that is to say, God will come down and change the Nigerian constitution. The man talk about all of that. He said that he is very disappointed that the vice president asking the Nigerians to start praying for Nigeria shows that there is no way out. It shows that he has no plan with the Nigerian president to actually change things in Nigeria, and which is facts. Because great nations of the earth are all built by brilliant individuals, intellectuals who keep together and they know what to do at the right time. I talked about in my previous video how great nations, we're talking about the European countries, how they are emerged because of great leaders that they had in the past, whether they were dictators or driven by philosophies, and of course they were expansionists, but they were great people. They might talk about how when a nation is left in the hands of people who believe that God can come down and develop their country, that what you have is the situation today in Nigeria. So what am I dealing with here? Just to tell you what a great man, just one man, can do for his people. How Cuba was one of the most prosperous countries in the world until American government came up with their evil plan. Exactly what they have done to Muammar Gaddafi. Until Muammar Gaddafi actually compensated those people, the families of those people who lost their life in that Lockerbie airline bombing, whether Muammar Gaddafi was a part of it or not, because he realized that the sanctions and of course the embargoes on Libyan businesses and export and import were becoming unbearable. He decided to say, okay, I'm going to compensate the family that actually lost their life in that airline, whether I did it or not. So the embargo was lifted. Libya became the most prosperous country in Africa. Highest standard of living. In Libya, when their citizens graduated from universities and they has no job, they have allocation from their government, from Muammar Gaddafi. This is a man they say is a bad man, and you see the fools, who has listened to the American government taking up arm against this man. What do you have today? Nothing. But this man you say is a dictator had transformed that country into the best country in Africa. Nigeria is the biggest exporter of crude oil in Africa, far bigger than that of Libya. But if you see what Muammar Gaddafi has done with that revenue in Libya, you understand that one man can make a difference. But you haven't have that in Nigeria. I talk about, how I actually prefer a country run by one man rather than what you have today in Nigeria, where you have a constitution that was drafted by the same people in power in order to favor them, in order to provide escape whenever they are charged with corruption, where the budget, the annual budget, about 20% of that budget is going to these so-called lawmakers. There is no way a dictator could have, embezzled such money. I'm talking about trillions of naira or billions of dollars in Nigeria that is going to the so-called lawmakers. Bunch of goons who just came in there through intimidations and killings. So I rather prefer a strong man, because whenever I'm making such statements, though I am not being dogmatic, I always open, for opinions, personal opinions and whatever, but I am a man that always base my argument on the facts. I base my arguments on logics, because when you say dictators are bad, and when you look at those countries, Iraq was the Dubai of those days. Look at Nigeria, where you have thousands of newspapers, thousands of television houses. They will write about their government. They will write about the corruption that's going on within there in the House of Senate, House of Rep. But nothing is done. You see, that is what Shakasvili of Georgia told the Nigerians. He said, you have bargained for freedom of expression instead of the true democracy that had to do with rule of laws. Because what you have now is that you have, freedom to say anything, but you are not actually going to change anything with that. Because the lawmakers, those corrupt Nigerian politicians, will just laugh whenever you wrote something about them. They just, seize those things in the front of the newspapers. They laugh because they understand that you are not practicing democracy that could have bring them to justice. You don't have rule of laws. What is the essence of writing about the corruption you have in your country when you cannot change that? When your constitution doesn't permit even the judicial to indict any corrupt politicians. So what is the need of asking for freedom of newspaper or whatever? Because what you're actually doing, you don't actually criticize the Nigerian government. You don't criticize. You only report this kind of, classic reporting. He said that I did not steal. He said that I steal. He said that I don't have money in the bank. That is what you have. You don't actually have that kind of liberty to do what's called criticism, to actually criticize your government. You are not holding your government accountable with your thousands of newspapers and televisions. I've been watching you guys. Cuba still has the best or one of the best hair care in the world. You don't have that in Nigeria. When you look at life expectancy, just go and check out Cuba Wikipedia. You are going to be surprised how far ahead they are of Nigeria. They have one of the best doctors in the world, one of the best institutions. When you look at literacy rate in Cuba, it's about 99%. In Nigeria, it's a joke. where you have about, I don't know, less than 50%. And you want to have something to say about this great man, Fidel Castro? A man that has transformed his country? Come on. And that is what Muammar Gaddafi was trying to replicate in Libya also. Healthcare wasn't an issue. Where today, Nigerian politicians, whenever they are sick, they are flew to Germany. But when the Cubans are sick, politicians or ordinary citizens, they have one of the world's best equipped hospitals there in Cuba to take care of their citizens and of their politicians. And that is what a man with vision that you guys call a dictator has done for his people. What can be the best? And I think Libya was almost the same. Even though they don't have, the largest oil well in Africa, Nigeria has. But what has Nigerian government over the years, whether from the civilian to the military to the civilian you have there today, what have they done for their country? That you can look and say, we have the best infrastructures in Africa. Where you can say, we have the best institutions in Africa. Because remember, like I said, in my previous videos, that great nations are built by intellectuals. And those intellectuals emerges from great institutions. Great institutions of any countries are repository to the citizens of that country, unlike what we have today in Nigeria. So I want to connect this man here, the great man of Cuba, Fidel Castro, that just passed away. How this man was mesmerized by philosophy. You see, I talk about this. How great nations are built with philosophies. Their leaders are driven by philosophies. Whether philosophies to be great, to expand, like that of France. They are driven by values. They are driven by goals and say, this is where we want to be. We want to attain that. Fidel Castro was driven by goals. With philosophy, he got there until the American government came into the picture. As a matter of fact, the American government, whether individuals, actually helped Fidel Castro to organize that movement that actually took down the corrupt government that was in power there. That was probably annexed to the Spanish king of those days economically. So, but when Fidel Castro came into power, he began to redistribute the land ownership, from the Spanish immigrant to the indigenous citizens. And of course, some American citizens, actually, like I said earlier, they begin to grab a lot of lands there. Agro farming was of a large scale in Cuba. Sugar cane was the dominant, product there. And when this man came in there, Fidel Castro, he started to reallocate these lands to, those people that ought to have possessed those lands. Like I said, some American citizens and companies were among of those people the land were taken away from. Because of a lot of things that Fidel Castro has changed, that infuriated the American government or some individuals in America who has economical interest there in Cuba. So they decided in retaliation that they are not going to refine those crude oil coming from USSR to Cuba. Texaco and the other one were in idle. So what do you expect a leader of a country to do? You have your companies in my country. You'll be gaining a lot. So now, because of what I have done as the leader of my country, you say, okay, you are not going to use this company you have in my country to refine the crude oil. I have to take over the company to make sure those crude oil are refined. And that is exactly what Fidel Castro has done. Okay, that further infuriated the Americans or the American government. So, and just okay, that is the case. and they took another action. Fidel Castro took another action. Everything became escalated until a full embargo was placed on Fidel Castro, Cuban products. As you all know, their main export was coming from sugarcane. Of course, they have other products like the Cuba cigar called the Havana. So Fidel Castro was somehow now a handicap. So he decided to turn to USSR, and USSR looking for opportunity to terrify the Americans, of course the American government. And they signed an agreement with Fidel Castro that actually permit the USSR to install a nuclear, missile in Cuba as a threat to the American government. So that was a very big move by Fidel Castro. It's not a man you can be intimidated. You make a move and make another move. So he actually found some hope from USSR. But when USSR collapsed, that became a big problem. So that has affected Fidel Castro. Of course, the Cubans, all of them begin to jump into the ship, run into the US, and say, this man is a bad man. But Fidel Castro tried to convince them that, look, only the weak will, because of hardship, return to slavery. But the strong will always want to move forward, that they should move forward. Remember, the revolution has been made. Okay, we can't just give it up now just because we are facing hardship. That was an intelligent statement made by this great man. And the Cubans, driven by the ideology that has been impacted on them through the revolution, understood what this man was saying. 80% of the Cubans were with this man. And if election was held and Mr. Castro wanted to contest, I bet you he would have won about 90% of the votes. That is what happened in Syria, where the man won 80-something% of the votes. But the American government said, nah, it was rigged. It wasn't rigged. Just because it didn't go the way you wanted it doesn't mean the election is rigged. Okay? So, but that is the problem that we have today in the world. So Fidel Castro was punished for his stand for justice, universal justice. He went to Vietnam. He helped the Vietnamese also. I cannot just imagine how a tiny country like Cuba could have succeeded like that, where you have a supposed giant just sleeping there in Nigeria. The citizens don't even know today what it means to be idealistic. They don't know what it means to be driven by philosophy. Everybody just want to have big house and have a big car. It's a good dream. But like I said, when you fail collectively, everywhere you went, you are seen as failure. So that is why you need to build your country. Nigerians has big dreams, but you cannot realize that dream individually. It can only be realized as a collective people, as a nation. So the roles the Nigerians or the Nigerian government ought to have played in the liberation of the South Africans, and of course, and other nations where, Fidel Castro has invested enormously. It's not investment that he needed some reward. I'm talking about a man driven by spirit of justice and equality. He has invested, even though Cuba is a small country, and made sure those countries are liberated. He never asked for nothing. This is what it means to be great. Of course, because he was loved everywhere he went. That is what actually kept him going until, 90 years he was before he passed away. A lot of assassination attempt has been made on this man's life and nothing happened. So this is what I want to talk about, because you have your house, you have your big car, you are nothing until you have impacted the life of your people and the life of nations around you. And we haven't had that in Nigeria. So I am doing this as a tribute to the great man Fidel Castro for what he has done, his accomplishment in his country, in his continent, South America, of course, in Africa. When you see when Nelson Mandela passed away, the whole world paid him homage, even though he only fought for his people. But Fidel Castro has fought for justice around the world. This is a great man that needs to be celebrated. And no single such leader we have seen in Nigeria since the existence of the country Nigeria. And that is what we should be talking about. I was reading some newspaper this morning. They talk about Nigeria needing the visionary leader in order to move on. Is it today you know it? You'll be voting for people like Ambassador, people like Jonathan, people like what you have there today, Buhari. Everybody just want to laugh, drink beer, and just laugh over those situations where students coming out of university, nothing waiting for them. Students need to sleep with lecturers now before they can pass. I'm talking about those girls. What does that tell you? That discouraged them to study hard, because at the end of the day, who's going to give the mark is the professor. It's not because of their hard work. So this is what I want to talk about, because Cuba, in the faces of this embargo here and there, sanctions, Cuba still have one of the best health care in the world. It is free from the young to the old. As a matter of fact, the Cuban government gives out free scholarship to the poor Americans who are not able to afford the capitalist system of education designed to hold the poor down in America. But they find help in Cuba. This is a country that is suffering. But look at Nigeria with all that billions every day. You don't have the best health care in Africa. Just like Gabon. You don't have nothing working in Gabon, even though they have oil. But we don't supposed to be comparing Nigeria with such a country like Gabon, under 1 million population. Because the more bigger you are, the more numbers of intellectuals normally you have to produce. So this is what I want to talk about. I really pay big homage to this great man Fidel Castro, and we should learn a lot from him. I'm ready to die for our people and of course for our country. Thanks for listening. God bless you.